Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Cloud Plumbing, the Pumps, Valves, and Pipes of a Successful Private Cloud. Today's event is brought to you by Nutanix and produced by Actual Tech Media. Before we get started, we have a little bit of housekeeping that we first need to cover. My name is David Davis, and I'm excited to be your moderator for today's event. I'm a partner at Actual Tech Media. I've been in the industry a long time, writing, blogging, speaking, creating video training, and moderating numerous events like this one. Thank you so much for joining us on today's event. We want this to be a very educational event, so we encourage you to use the questions box in GoToWebinar, and we'll be answering those questions at the end of today's event. So make sure that you get your questions in early. We also have some really cool handouts available for you for download there in the GoToWebinar control panel. You'll find 3 PDFs, and I must say that these are really well done resources. The first one is the top 20 hyperconvergence questions answered. So this is the top 20 questions and all the answers, and it's done in a very graphical, very appealing format. So make sure that you check that out. There's also the Nutanix Data Center Modernization Done Right Guide, which contains customer stories about real-world benefits of using hyperconverged infrastructure. And finally, you'll find another resource entitled Building a Business Case for Hyperconverged Infrastructure. So make sure that you check out all 3 of those really excellent resources, again, for download right there in the GoToWebinar control panel. And finally, we'll have a $300 Tango gift card to give away to one lucky attendee on today's live event. If you're watching this event on demand, I'm sorry the drawing has already occurred. You can find the full price terms and conditions at events.actualtechmedia.com. And without further ado, I'm excited to introduce today's presenter. That is Mayank Gupta, who is a product marketing lead for HCI at Nutanix. Mayank, thank you so much for being on the event today. I know you've got a great presentation lined up for us. Take it away.
Hello, everybody. This is Mayank Gupta. Thank you for joining the Private Cloud Plumbing webinar today. I lead the product marketing for the core HCI and IT operations at Nutanix. First of all, I'm really pleased that you have taken the step to join this webinar to understand a little more about how your private cloud can be made better and what actually entails creating a viable private cloud. In my role as a product marketer for Nutanix, it's my job to understand some of the challenges our customers are facing and solve their problems, as well as at the same time find how some of our solutions can map the problems these customers have. So it's very pertinent that as you face some of the challenges of IT operations today, we understand what these problems are, and then we find appropriate solutions for them. So again, I'm very excited that you have joined the webinar today, and let's dive right in. So the plan for the structure for today's meeting is as follows. Today's webinar is as follows. I'll first talk about the importance of your role, essentially, the people who are on this webinar, how IT organizations are critical for any organization's success. And then we'll jump into some of the challenges that you face and what some of your colleagues across the industry have done in order to alleviate those challenges. And then I'll talk about the private cloud. Nutanix as a company has pioneered hyperconverged infrastructure, and that enables definitely a private cloud which is better than better if not at par with some of the public clouds out there. So I'll talk about that, and then I'll talk about some of the solutions, and then end in the end. We also have a poll in the middle so that you can be engaged. At the same time, express any questions that you might have. What you would also see on this panel, there is a question, a sidebar for question and answers. If you have any questions, please do enter them in the chat window, and towards the end, this is a 45-minute webinar, and what I'll do is I'll leave 5 minutes in the end so that I can answer some of the questions that you have. So with that, without further ado, let's just jump in. So many of you are on this call because there are challenges, right? And we're looking at a scenario, what if businesses and IT could actually work to drive growth? What if businesses and IT teams, instead of going head to head, are working at the same page as a partner so that they can work towards the progress of an organization. And what if all this was supplemented by technology which is helping the IT teams drive this partnership? And that is the world we are trying to find. Because the reality is, if we don't disrupt, if IT doesn't disrupt with appropriate technology, it would be left behind. And that's exactly what a lot of other companies have faced. So this is a fact, this is a Fortune survey that was ran, that 52% of the companies that from 2000, so in the last 22 years, half of the companies which are out there have either been acquired or gone bankrupt. And this essentially tries to stress the fact that companies necessarily and by design have to constantly innovate. And one of the most challenging things one of the things that can help them innovate is their IT teams. And that's why you are on this call, and that's why the IT teams across the board are looking on words. How do these teams constantly reinvent? How do these teams constantly innovate? Again, it's not just the IT team's imperative, but even CIOs, and this is a survey that Gartner ran, that for a lot of CIOs, almost 60% of the CIOs, they are very focused and they understand that in order to grow, IT innovations is the foundation, IT and digital innovations is the foundation on which the organization can succeed. And these CEOs as well as CIOs are acutely aware of these facts, and which is why they want to partner with their IT leaders and IT teams and IT admins and network admins in order to drive those successes. So you have an equal stake in the success of your organization as much as your CEO and CIOs. But the fact of the matter is, despite the fact that IT innovations is so important for your organization, as many of you can attest to, traditional IT is hurting because of siloed infrastructure. What do I mean by that? If you look at traditional IT, where you work with a silo of storage or SAN or NASes, or you procure servers from Dell or any of these companies, HP, and then you set up the networking for that, you're stuck in this vicious cycle of buying this individual storage, deploying it, managing it, troubleshooting it. Again, because these are different vendors, you have to reach out to different vendors, reach out to different manuals to troubleshoot it, and then each of these silos would have a different upgrade cycle, and then you plan for the next upgrade. So you're stuck in this vicious cycle where you're constantly upgrading and just keeping the lights on, and that's very challenging. And it's no wonder that some of the IT departments actually look like, as you can see here, just wires hung around, and the cooling is with a fan. So when most of your stuff is spent just deploying and managing IT, you really don't have the time to innovate for your businesses. And that is usually a challenge. In fact, again, this is an independent survey that IDC ran, that because of these the time spent just managing the infrastructure, which is where 80% of the time, in fact, IT teams that's where IT teams end up spending their time, that leaves very little time for them to actually give applications. Now, let that fact sink in. What your businesses want from you is applications to drive business growth. But what you're actually spending your time is just managing this infrastructure. In fact, in the same survey, what they found is that because of these challenges, because the IT teams can really not help their businesses if they're dealing with traditional IT, 57% of the times these departments actually trying to circumvent IT and try to find their own solutions, which is to say that your business partners are actually trying to avoid you and go ahead. And that is definitely something what people don't want, not as an IT organization, not as CIOs. So they want to change this, and one way to change this is, as many of you have realized, is, hey, on-prem data centers are very challenging. They're very hard to maintain. They're very hard to upkeep and deploy. So let's just move to the public cloud. Now, public cloud definitely has a lot of advantages. One of the primary advantages which because of which businesses move to the public cloud such as AWS, Azure, GCP, is that it's a very easy to deploy and it's rapid time to the market. Now you can quickly deploy your applications, and the time to procure is very easy. All you have to do is open your credit card and boom, you have your infrastructure or your instance on the cloud. It's very easy to consume. Now, the next time Christmas comes in and you have to, let's say, upgrade or you have to increase capacity, you can just open your wallet some more and procure some more IT, and that's not what you want to do. So that's again the advantage of a public cloud. It's very easy to manage because somebody else is managing it for you, so you don't have to worry about that. And it constantly upgrades, so you don't have to worry about that. So that's another advantage of the public cloud. So yeah, a lot of your IT teams are moving to the public cloud. But the challenge with the public cloud is that it's not suited for all workloads. And what do I mean with that? So applications which are elastic, which are not as latency dependent, they can definitely move to the public cloud because definitely it's easier to consume, it's easier to deploy, it's easier to maintain and manage. But still, applications which are business critical, applications where there is regulations, applications where there are legal reasons for which you have to have on-prem, they cannot move to the public cloud. At the same time, there's some other challenges of the public cloud where legacy apps which you have traditionally, which you cannot move to the public cloud, they have to still reside on-prem. There are regulatory concerns for which you cannot move stuff to clouds, which might not be in the same geographic locations where the data has to reside. At the same time, it's a public cloud, and you immediately lose control when something is on a public cloud versus when you own it. But last but not the least, and this is one of the most important reasons, is the fact that there are often cost overruns. People who move to public cloud, what they realize is that they often end up spending a lot more because they did not anticipate how much their expenditure is going to be on the public cloud. And that's often a reason when people move to public cloud and realize, oh, this is not as what we expected it to be. In fact, a lot of cloud-based workloads are returning on-prem. In the survey that IDC ran, 85% of the respondents actually are moving their applications back from the public cloud to an on-prem cloud. And that's a significant number, right? And couple that with the fact that 80% of the workloads are still on-prem, what this essentially means is that there is a healthy space where a public cloud and a private cloud need to coexist. So what do I mean with that? So obviously there is a room for public cloud and some applications can move to that. But what that also means is that what if your on-prem data center looked like a private cloud? As I was saying, what we want to make sure is that how do we ensure that a public cloud and a private cloud can coexist? So what do I mean by a private cloud? Essentially, what I mean by a private cloud is, what if we brought all the benefits out of a public cloud to your private data center? A private data center where everything was driven by software. A private data center where you could use machine learning, you could use off-the-shelf hardware, and you didn't have to expense for very expensive proprietary hardware. A private cloud which did not have a single point of failure. Now, if you know, a lot of big companies like Google or Amazon or even Facebook, their data centers look exactly like that. And if you're anywhat familiar with the history of Nutanix, our founders actually came from organizations from Google and Facebook, Google and AWS, where they created a private cloud which was distributed in nature so that it used all the benefits. It could bring all the benefits of a public cloud and bring it for your own private cloud. And that's exactly the advantage of a private cloud which can work and look like a public cloud. Now let me talk a little more in detail about this, right? A private cloud is the route to a hybrid cloud. And what do I mean with that? That what we need is definitely a coexistence of a public cloud, but if you have a good private cloud, that can actually help your CEOs and CIOs create a hybrid cloud. And hybrid cloud which is easy to maintain, a hybrid cloud that's intelligent, and that can seamlessly move apps and data between your private cloud as well as your hybrid cloud, and a private cloud that is as resilient as your public cloud so that you never have to face downtimes. In fact, a lot of your business organizations have a distributed edge, and a distributed edge could be a remote location. This could be edge and IoT applications that your organization have. And a true hybrid cloud, or what we also call an enterprise cloud, essentially has data and apps move seamlessly across all these clouds. The public cloud, your on-prem data center, which we'll call the private cloud, as well as the distributed edge. This is the remote and edge locations. And if we can create a structure like that, that would be a true enterprise cloud nirvana. And at the same time, what we want to do is have a single pane of management through which you can manage all of this. So this is what, if you are able to achieve this for your organization, you can actually help your organization foster growth and progress forward. So these are the results from the audience on this poll, and it's very interesting that if you look at this is an independent survey that a research organization, 451 Research, ran, that what are customers trying to address with hyperconverged infrastructure? This is something that enables a private cloud, and this is exactly consistent with the views on with the audience of this webinar, right? You want to simplify the infrastructure management and maintenance, as well as accelerate provisioning and optimization, and support a hybrid cloud strategy. So I'm happy that at least the surveys and the audience are on the same page with that. But some of the other things which a lot of audiences have seen, right? In order to find greenfield application deployments, you need an HCI solution because it's easier to bring innovations through an HCI solution. To support emerging technologies such as containers, you need HCI solutions. It's very easy to innovate when you can easily take care of the management as well as maintenance, and then you can start innovating and look at containers and Kubernetes and all these cool things which are out there. So let's talk about what is this private cloud. So for many of you, and again, I see the concern of infrastructure as a concern. The way you have seen infrastructure traditionally, it's very siloed. You buy massive storage units, and this could be from NetApp, EMC, where you have storage controllers connected over fiber channels or Ethernet cables. So you have networking, and on top of that is compute sitting. And then you have a virtualization layer, and then your applications are sitting, right? So this is the traditional, what we call the three-tier infrastructure. This is very complex, right? You can clearly see there's so many parts to this, and every time there's you have to upgrade storage, then you have to go and upgrade the networking in that, then you have to make sure the next time you have to upgrade compute, it's a different set of vendors, and it's very challenging, right? Versus what your businesses are concerned about is the application learning on the top. And that's exactly what we think you should do. So here at Nutanix, what we do is we compress all that you see on the left-hand side into this easy, scalable box. That is what we call the Nutanix node. And what this Nutanix appliance and Nutanix node has, it has all the elements of storage, networking, and compute built in. So that when you have to scale, all you have to do is just stack more of these boxes together. And you don't have to buy the box from us. You can buy it from any OEM. One of the things we always try to pioneer at Nutanix is that you as the customer get the freedom of choice to select whatever hardware vendor you like. So you can use any applications there, and then you can run containers and virtualization layers on top of it. And in fact, what we do is the virtualization layer comes with Nutanix. You don't have to procure. You can use AHV, which is our virtualization layer. You can use VMware. You can use Hyper-V from Microsoft. You can use containers. So we support all that. And further, because AHV is a part of our system, we actually make it part of our HCI solution so that all you worry about at the end of the day is applications and data and nothing else. And by integrating compute, storage, networking, and virtualization, that's exactly what you want, right? Let me talk a little more in details on how do we enable this. And this is the only technical slide because I don't want to just show pretty graphics and convince you. I want to actually show you a little innards of what's inside this box. So what we do is traditionally, if you've seen, is there is a storage controller. Usually that's what traditional infrastructure has. And what Nutanix has done is that it has moved the storage NASes. It has subsumed it has taken away the storage controllers, and by moving the storage into the nodes, so now you can see the storage could be flash, NVMe, or hard drives. Your infrastructure looks much more simpler. And now, in order to control all of the storage, what we do is we run something called a CVM, and that controller VM makes sure that all the nodes, and each of those boxes that you saw on the previous slides is a node here. The CVM does it talks to these nodes so that it creates a storage pool. So what it essentially does is, as more and more nodes are added to your system, the CVM ensures that it looks like an endless storage pool, and which any app or application can use. So you can start small and scale without limit, and every time you have to add capacity, just add one node, and the CVM will make sure that it just looks like one endless pool of storage. At the same time, what we do is that what you can also see is that you have an hypervisor running here, and on top of these is your VMs running. So Nutanix is architected for a distributed system. But what we also want to make sure is that data which the VM is accessing is kept local, so that is for speed and performance. But we also make copies of that data on other nodes. And what that does is that if something happens to this node, we can immediately bring up your data on other nodes so that your system never goes down. So you have data locality for maximum performance, as well as you have distributed data and copies of data for resiliency. And that's very important. As IT leaders, you will realize that you never want your system to go down. And the benefit of this architecture is that you can mix nodes of different types and different hardware generations. So now that when you have to upgrade or when you have to add capacity, you don't have to worry about, are things consistent? Does this hardware vendor work with the other hardware vendor? It does not matter. As long as it's running on a Nutanix HCI solution, we will make sure that you can mix different hardware vendors, and the software does the magic, and all the hardware at the bottom is subsumed and made part of the infrastructure. So that is the benefit of having this HCI solution, or what is called hyperconverged infrastructure, which essentially Nutanix pioneered, right? Now, I know a lot of you are running business critical applications, and in that terms, it's very important that any storage that you get or any solution that you get has all the enterprise grade features that you're used to, right? So some of our customers offered some of our Nutanix. I'll show that later as well. The federal government uses Nutanix, so again, for them, and a lot of businesses, in fact, 800 of the top 2,000 G2K businesses on the planet use Nutanix. And they use it because we give you proven enterprise storage solutions such as snapshot, data tiering, compression of data, deduplication, synchronous and asynchronous application out of the box. So all these features which you have come to rely on and expect, these are part of the Nutanix solution. Security, we have security built into our core. So we have cluster lockdown, we have authentication, we have data at rest encryption, as well as security built and in flight of the data, as well as read. So again, security at all stages of data storage as well as data movement is a part of the Nutanix stack. So that is a part of our infrastructure stack. Now, as we saw in the survey, that you want an ease of management. So for ease of management, we have this console called Prism. And what is Prism? Prism is, as you can think, it's the single console which looks at all of your infrastructure. So now you don't need a different console for your storage or your networking or your compute, but rather you get one panel through which you can see your compute, you can manage your virtualization, you can see the cluster health, as well as your operational analytics. And the benefit is this Prism stack is you can access it right out of your web browser. So I'm showing you a screenshot, and because we realized that we wanted to simplify things, so if you look at this console that I'm showing, it's very clean. It's not cumbersome. You can see the cluster health in the middle. You can see how your cluster is doing in terms of IOPS, in terms of storage. You can see how many VMs are running. All is shown in. It's almost like an Apple-like display where a lot of thought has gone into the design of how this data should be presented to you. But at the same time, we realize that there are several layers of infrastructure. So what you can do is then once you see that everything is good, you're good. But if there are any alerts that you need to address, then you can go and dive in. So let me show you some more screenshots. So in Prism now you can go and look at your infrastructure. So this is an example of how you can see how your different ports are connected. Again, through the Prism console, you can set up how the ports networking has to be set up, and you can do it in one go. So again, it's very easy and intuitive. You can see how your storage looks like and how the IOPS goes. These are storage nodes. So all that is subsumed in one single management plane. Now, a lot of customers start with HCI and this I've seen again and again, that they start HCI with some they start Nutanix they have a remote location and they say, okay, how do we connect that? Let's start with one remote node. And then they immediately fall in love with the simplicity and the elegance of the whole system, and they grow. So let's talk about some of the remote and branch and edge solutions, right? So what do we mean by this remote and branch and edge solutions? What ends up happening is, and you must, as IT admins and IT leaders, I'm sure you have seen that there is this remote location that you need to service. Now, how do you deploy infrastructure there, right? These are islands of infrastructure, and you could have hundreds and tens of these locations. And managing them and giving infrastructure at those applications can be challenging. And that is where HCI, with a single compostable, single unit, a single small unit, can actually help you get there, right? The other challenges of these remote locations is that you don't have a dedicated IT staff there, which is why the simplicity of management and the simplicity to manage it from one central location is very important. At the same time, you want to make sure that these remote locations, while they are remote, you do not want it to be too slow. So which is why you want to have these it to be fast enough so that these locations can be serviced accordingly. So that's exactly what HCI can help you. By cutting infrastructure and cross complexities, with HCI, deployment is very easy. You can also, through Prism, as I showed you, you can actually deploy and see infrastructure almost through a one-click across hundreds of sites and do upgrades remotely for all these remote sites. And I guess, and I cannot stress this enough, like every time I've talked to customers, they've said, like, man, upgrades are very challenging. And obviously they are very challenging when you're talking to different vendors, and especially in remote sites. But through an HCI solution managed through Prism, now upgrades become very easy. And because we support different workloads, it's very easy as well as secure to manage and deploy workloads at the same time. So this is what the benefit of HCI can look like. Now, one very important thing is also backup. As many of you can attest, is that data on these sites, if these are remote or your main site, cannot go down. So backup and disaster recovery are part of the HCI solution. So you can have what we offer, again, through Prism. Now backing up is also just like a single click operation. And then recovering from these secondary slides is also a one-click operation. So what you can do is you have your primary slide. We offer different RPOs, which is recovery point objective, for your disaster recovery, and through construct called asynchronous, near synchronous, and metro, which is to say asynchronous is you will have an RPO of roughly an hour, near synchronous is you'll have an RPO of 15 minutes or lower, and metro is you have zero RPO. Essentially, the moment something happens to your primary site, you can actually go to the secondary site and act as if nothing happened. So we enable that right out of the box. Again, this is the beauty of an HCI solution. All being powered by a single management UI through Prism, as I showed you. And not just that, so that is disaster recovery, that's DR, that's business continuity. But there are also instances in which cases where you have to save data. And not only a secondary slide, today with Xi Leap, what we offer disaster recovery as a service, wherein which you can back up your primary site into a cloud, which is why I said in the beginning that any private cloud strategy has to be a hybrid cloud strategy. And that's exactly what we deliver through disaster recovery as a service, where you can back up data into the cloud. Not just that, we also have backup solutions in which we partner with leading backup solutions such as Veeam, Haiku, Commvault. We recently announced in our .next solution called Nutanix Mine, in which we work with Nutanix. Nutanix works with Veeam and Haiku to enable best-in-class backup, and that backup is also, you can also back it up. We have S3 compatible APIs, which you can again back up into the cloud. So again, the private cloud has to be a hybrid cloud story, and that's exactly what we at Nutanix deliver. So now, the next slide, which the next very important thing that I'm sure all of you are asking is, yes, I can run at remote locations. Yes, I can back up data. What are applications? Can I run all of my enterprise level solutions on this? And I can confirm that. And again, we always, at every earnings call, we announce how many applications we are running, enterprise class applications we are running on Nutanix. So today our customers, and again, as I said, top 800 customers of G2K are running Nutanix. They run business critical applications such as SAP, Meditech, Citrix VDI. They run cloud native applications such as Kubernetes. They use Splunk and Hadoop. They're actually running big data, which actually need a lot of compute as well as a lot of storage on Nutanix solutions. So yes, any applications, any enterprise applications that you're looking for, we do run at Nutanix. In fact, something which we very recently announced is Epic and Meditech. These are healthcare applications where latency is literally life-threatening and life-critical. Nutanix is the only HCI solution that has been certified to work with Epic and Meditech. So this is the level of faith that we have in the enterprise-grade solutions that we offer, that even mission-critical and life-critical applications such as Epic and Meditech are certified to run on Nutanix. So definitely all enterprise-grade solutions are running on Nutanix. Now, again, you don't have to take my word for it. If you go to Gartner today or Forrester, you can see that Nutanix is a leader in the HCI space. So you can see that both in terms of completeness of vision as well as ability to execute. And when I mean ability to execute, it is listening to customers and supporting enterprise-grade solutions. It's listening to customers and supporting enterprise-grade storage as well as security. That's exactly what we have done, and that's why we are leader across the board in any independent surveys that have been conducted by analysts. One of the very important things you will realize that when customers come to .next, which is our conference, they're very passionate about our support. And the reason for that is that our support is across the globe. We have a 97% customer satisfaction rating. We have a 90+ net promoter score. And let me just dwell a second on that. If you look at all the IT infrastructure companies, usually their net promoter score, a net promoter score is a score in which customers recommend an enterprise solution to other customers. They say, hey, do you like this? Yeah, I'll definitely like it. I'll recommend it to others. Companies such as VMware or Dell or other companies, they have a net promoter score. I suggest you just go to the website and check out in the 40s. Rabid fans, people who have iPhone, I have an iPhone. Apple has a net promoter score of 60. Nutanix has a net promoter score of over 90 in the last 4 years. So which is to say that our customers absolutely love us, and which is why if you are curious about Nutanix, you want to know what is it, I highly recommend to talk to our sales guys, but also talk to our customers, and they can walk you through why we simplify infrastructure management, why we are the right solution for that hybrid cloud strategy that people are looking for. Right? Again, this is an independent survey which IDC conducted of Nutanix customers. We were not involved in any form or fashion in the survey. IDC independently did the survey. But I'll wait a second just on the slide so that you can read some of these eye-popping numbers, right? 60% lower cost of ownership when they moved from a traditional 3-tier infrastructure to Nutanix. 97% unplanned outages. That is an astounding number, which is to say that if you have, let's say, 50 outages last year on a traditional silo, you just had one and a half outage this year once you moved to Nutanix. And how do we do that? If you go back to the distributed nature of how we are architected, there is no single point of failure. And that is why, even if your hard disk goes down, even if somebody accidentally pulls out a plug on one of the servers, because the data is distributed and because the CVM effectively knows how to move data between all these different nodes, your infrastructure never goes down. The ability to have a 5-year ROI. Now, this ROI, a 500 ROI, is a very big number. But if you realize that if the upgrades can happen, you don't have to come over the weekends and do an upgrade. You are saving time. You are saving dollars for the businesses, because now you're saving that downtime which you would have had to do for your business is actually now an uptime, and that reflects in the ROI numbers. A 7-month payback period. That's again an astounding number, that if you spend something moving to an HCI within 7 months, after 7 months, effectively your infrastructure becomes free and you're actually running on that infrastructure, which gives you all the benefits of ease of manageability as well as uptime. So that's a very powerful number. And again, if you have, in fact, you can go to the Nutanix website today and run an ROI analysis. What we do is we let you plug in your infrastructure numbers, how many servers that you have, how many people you're managing, how many applications you're deploying, and you can actually get a sense of what this number is going to be for you, for your organization. And I highly recommend you try out that website. Now, let me go to the next slide. As I said earlier, that it is HCI and what we are enabling in the private cloud, and then for your hybrid cloud strategy, is not something which is very niche concept now. Now, these are all the logos which are supporting, which are on Nutanix HCI, and as you would realize, is you can see everything. You see the federal government here, you see JetBlue, you see Walmart here, you see all these. You see BART. I'm here based out of San Jose. BART is running on Nutanix. So across the board, all these companies are actually using Nutanix for their IT infrastructure. That brings me to the end of my webinar. I'm open to Q&A, so I'll go to the chat window as you are logged in. Please feel free to ask me questions. Very appropriately, I have 5 minutes left, so I'll repeat the questions, and I'll happily answer them. So the first question that I see is from Sonia. I'll not say the last name. Can you please confirm async time to secondary DR sites versus DR as a service? So again, there are two constructs here, right? You can have a secondary site, and for secondary sites, we offer 3 solutions, which is async rep, synchronous rep, or metro. So async is an RPO of roughly 60 minutes. For synchronous rep, we have an RPO of 15 minutes. And for metro, now metro, what happens is, if you have a secondary site which is within 100 kilometers of your primary site, again, we're still dealing with the laws of physics, and because what happens in metro, or what we call sync rep, which is the 0 RPO, every time we write a data on your primary site, we don't acknowledge that write until we make a copy on the secondary site, because we want to make sure that immediately if that secondary site goes, the primary site goes down, we can bring it up on the second site. So we have a limit of, there's a physical limit of 100 kilometers, but we do support that, right? So that is for your secondary site, which is a physical construct, versus what Sonia's question was. So for a secondary site, which is a physical data center, we support RPOs of 60 minutes, 15 minutes, and 0, versus for disaster recovery as a service, which is for Xi Cloud, there the async time is up to, I believe it's for 30 minutes. We say an hour to 30 minutes, that's what we say for the RPO time. So I hope I answered that. We still have a couple of more minutes. If people have questions around Oh yeah, I see one more question. This is one more question. This is from David. I think his question was the HV hypervisor versus ESXi from VMware. So for the audience on this webinar, we at Nutanix believe in that an hypervisor should be a part of a HCI stack, and you shouldn't have to pay additional licenses for that. So AHV is our hypervisor solution, which comes as a part of our. You don't have to purchase an additional license with it. AHV, in fact, again, we show the adoption of AHV, which is our hypervisor, which comes as a part of a Nutanix stack. In the last quarter, 47% of our customers, so we have 13,000 customers, 47% of our customers are using AHV as a part of their hypervisor solution. Again, they love it because it is out of the box, it has all the features which they want, and they don't have to pay an additional license for this. So when they start out in a remote location or they're starting out trying out Nutanix, they love the fact that now they don't have to pay for an additional hypervisor, and it comes as a part of their Nutanix solution. So yeah, that's what AHV is, and a lot of our customers love it. Because it's very tightly integrated with our HCI solution, it has some additional features which, again, frankly, other competitors cannot offer. That being said, if you already have Hyper-V or ESXi licenses, we are happy to support them as well. So yeah, that's the hypervisor question that you were answering. Thank you again for everybody who was on this webinar. We are at the end of the webinar. I hope you learned something on how the private cloud enables the hybrid cloud strategy, and how Nutanix can help enable that strategy for you and your organization. Again, this was Mayank Gupta. If you have any questions, I'll be happy. You can in the beginning, as you get the slides, you can hit me on. You can reach out to me on Twitter, or you can just send me an email. Happy to answer that. Thank you so much.
Great presentation, Mayank. Thank you very much. We do have a winner of today's $300 Tango gift card. The randomizer has selected. Here we go. Pulling up the name now. Henry Scott. Henry Scott of Georgia. Congratulations, Henry Scott. We'll reach out to you to deliver your $300 gift card. I want to thank everyone else for joining us on the event today. There are a few questions we weren't able to get to. We'll do our best to get back to those after the event. But make sure that you download those handouts that are available right there in the audience console. There's 3 excellent handouts. And of course, always visit our sponsor's website, Nutanix.com. Thank you to Nutanix, and thank you everyone out there in the audience for joining us on the event today. Have a great day. See you next time.